I think I'm actually part of the sandwich generation. You know, you've got older people you got to take care of, my parents in particular, and as they get older, they need more care. And, you know, I'm finally out of the diapers and a little bit past that. They're out of university even almost. Cross my fingers. But I mean, it's always a question of how much can you support out there. So the federal government has taken on this whole challenge. John Carmichael is joining us, Conservative MP for Don Valley West, that is. And John, tell me about this Canadian Employers for Caregivers Plan. What is it?
Well, Pat, thank you, and I'm delighted to join you today. The Caregivers Plan is a study group that is composed of business people that are looking at the cost of our workers in business providing care to their families, predominantly seniors, and the impact that that has on the day-to-day workplace. As businesses go, we're losing tremendous amounts of productivity to people that are trying to balance caring for aging parents specifically and balance their job requirements.
Is there a real sense, John, that people, you know, get overburdened by this, and they say to themselves, "I got to take care of mom and dad. I'm going to quit. I'm going to retire myself." Do people actually do that? I know I can't afford to do that, but do people do it?
Well, people do it, but I think the biggest challenge is the stress that it puts on people that try to balance the two while they're working and they're caring for a senior parent. And as a former business person, I can tell you, I experienced it in my workplace where we had people that did just that. And so the challenge is, how do they balance their workplace, their requirements at work? I mean, the stress involved in caring for that senior parent, plus the stress involved in competing and caring for their job. It's a challenge that's very, very difficult to balance. And so this group is looking at what does the government need to do to support caregivers who are trying to provide for both sides of those lives. And you know yourself, two incomes are required today in many, many cases. And so a lot of people just can't give up that extra income and be expected to be at home. So it's a very serious challenge and a very stressful environment.
Okay, now who's on this panel specifically, I guess? You know, they're business leaders, obviously. And then what do you hope to accomplish in terms of looking at the international experience? What other countries have looked at?
Well, certainly for the panel itself, there's a half dozen people who are all business leaders, people from Home Depot, from Johnson & Johnson, Ernst & Young, led by the Minister of State for Seniors, the Honorable Alice Wong. And these are people who have good experience and are already involved in compassionate care for their employees. They have people in their industries, in their businesses that are already engaged in caregiving and want to find a way that they can spread the message, I guess, more than anything else, of what is necessary from the federal government perspective to ensure that we're meeting the need. Just on sheer numbers, the number of caregivers currently in a caregiving capacity is some 6.1 million Canadians. That's about 35% of our workforce who are doing this today. That's going to double by 2030 and it's going to triple by 2050. So we've got to find ways in which we address this issue before it becomes a serious problem. As far as countries that are already engaged, the best example is the UK. They have a program called Carers UK, and they've established some great learning for us that I think will be fundamental to how we adapt our programs and move forward.
In advance of the plan that you're putting together, John, how do you think it'll play out? Do you think it'll play out with strategies for job sharing and work issues, or will it be more tax? In other words, I can deduct a worker that's helping me out with my grandparents.
Well, we're already doing the tax credit. We have special caregiver programs.
Or expand that even.
Well, it can be expanded, absolutely, and I guess it's just at what cost, and there are people that will have to work their way through those in future budgets. But I think the challenge is finding workplace environment that is perhaps more flexible, whether it's work at home, work at more convenient hours, reduced work weeks, whatever it might be, to find ways to allow, from a compassionate perspective, these caregivers to be able to meet the needs of their families.
Why does the federal government have to get involved in something like that? Why don't you just let the workplace take care? I'm a libertarian, obviously, leaning in the business world.
Yeah.
Why not just let the workplace find its own solutions?
Well, I think ultimately that is what will happen, but when you look at a country of the size of Canada with the number of provinces, the number of interested parties, somebody's got to take the lead. And clearly, Minister Wong has taken that lead in terms of trying to establish a framework that I think will then be able to transport to provinces and working together. You look at federal tax credits, you look at provincial programs, healthcare is managed provincially. So I think we've got to find ways that we can find some synergies to work together that in partnership will provide a better Canada and a better work environment.
In partnership with because I noticed that there weren't a lot of provincial politicians that were involved in this particular plan. How are you going to have that partnership in place if you don't include them as part of the process?
Well, this is the starting point. You have to have the plan. Somebody's got to take the lead, and somebody has to say, look, we've got to identify the problem and identify the risk that's attached to it. Clearly, we're providing that risk, or that risk is a serious one to workers, to those that they're serving, that both in their businesses and in their caregiving capacity. And I think that once that's established, and we've got these leaders in business who understand the ground rules, they can then transport that problem or transport that message to the provincial leaders that are going to have to be a part of this. And clearly, as a federal government, we're going to bring those provinces into some working relationship that will help us get that job done.
Well, John, when it does come to fruition, your plan, come back and tell us what you found.
Thank
I'd be
you, Pat.
fascinated,
I
because I'm
appreciate it.
facing those very pressures.
We'll be doing it together.
Exactly. John, thanks very much. John
Thank you.
Carmichael joining us, Conservative MP for Don Valley West.